Are you tired of watching hours of confusing videos by guitar music theory experts on YouTube and still not understanding a darn thing they're on about? Then you need Song, the Guitar Chord Family app. Song organizes 6,000 guitar chords into their relative major and minor keys, showing you all the ones that sound good together. Downloading Song is like downloading music theory straight into your brain. Try it now for free. Link is in the description.
Hey everybody, it's Brad the Guitarologist. This is my niece, Katie. And she's back in town. She's actually been in one video before. If you'll recall, I'll put the link up here somewhere. Oh, she has something in the car that she's going to show us. What is it, Katie?
It is a radio from the 40s, I believe.
Okay, so this thing is an old Silvertone. It's an old Sears. Supertone, excuse me. So Supertone, this would be definitely like pre-1940, because around 1940 they moved to Silvertone, so it's probably 30s. Got some grill cloth rips. Kind of makes you wonder how bad the speaker cone is. It looks like I'm looking all the way through the speaker cone right there, so I don't hold out a lot of hope. Wonder if this dial moves. Okay, dial moves. That's good.
When I picked it up, she did say that she and her husband had plugged it in and it still worked, but the volume didn't change.
Okay.
But if you look at the cords, they're chewed through.
That's the power cord.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Probably. Yeah, I have.
And this might even be one of the old curtain burner type of cords. And by that I mean like these things would actually were a big resistor, and they tend to heat up because they're a big resistor, and they, you know, they're called curtain burners because they would catch people's houses on fire. But yeah, I would say somebody either was lying or they got really lucky when they plugged this thing up.
Yeah.
Got an on-off switch on the back here. I don't know if that would be original because there's a switch on the front in the knob. So that might have been added by somebody, maybe. I don't know. And I don't know what that is unless it's an antenna. Probably antenna. Definitely pre-40s. This is number 27 tube. The cone looks nice on this. This is an old, this is what's called a electrodynamic speaker. And that means that there's a big coil in here. It's not a permanent magnet on the back. So the coil will energize the magnetism of the speaker. So I don't know what that says. I can't read it, but maybe you can see it. It's a Jensen. Wow, that's an old Jensen. How much you say you pay for this?
45.
45 bucks?
Yep.
That speaker right there is worth what you paid for the whole thing. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'd say so. Definitely have had some critters in here. We can see the seeds. Here's all the wiring for the electrodynamic speaker, and it looks like it's pretty well intact. That stuff all looks pretty good. Katie and I are gonna take this thing inside. Probably, well, we might even actually just take the chassis out here, and then take the chassis inside and put a power cord on it first, and then just fire it up and see what it does with a new power cord.
Cool.
All right, so knob's got to come off first. But this looks to be in fairly decent shape. Like I said, the grill cloth has got some holes, which is not a huge deal. It would have been nice, you know, it'd been nice if it didn't, but it's another common thing that you see. The knobs are kind of interesting. They're wooden. They've got a brass fitting on the inside of them. All right, moment of truth. We'll see how bad this thing really is. Yeah, so check this out. Pretty clean. Man, look at the printing on that transformer. These will be the coils, I'm guessing. This looks like it might even be brand new, but then again, judging by the rest of it, it's about the same kind of condition. We're gonna probably have to find a schematic on this if we can, but I don't see a model number anywhere. I just don't see a model number at all. The Hazeltine Corporation. I wonder what they, what part of it they had patented. That's weird. I've never seen that patent either. And yeah, I don't see a single chassis number anywhere on this thing. So I think maybe finding a schematic might be a tall order. So anyway, let's get a cord on it, and we'll kind of just fire it up and see what it does from there. It might just fire right up and be fine, but I mean, we're still gonna have to clean it and everything. So yeah, let's do that first. Just out of curiosity, I'm gonna take this off. I just want to see what's up under it. I'm sure we've got power section stuff. We've got the transformer, but I'm just curious how big the transformer is, because this is a really big housing. Okay, so this is the transformer, power transformer, and right behind it is the main reservoir capacitor or condenser, same thing. Potter condenser. Does it give me the microfarads and everything? I guess it does. That is probably gonna have to be restuffed. So this is going to be probably a situation where I'll have to take this off and crack it open and restuff it with a modern capacitor of the same value. And I'm just hoping, praying it has that value written on the outside there. It's kind of hard to tell with it sandwiched in. They should have put the label on the other side. Why didn't they do that?
That would be too easy.
Yeah, it would have been way too easy. Nothing over there though. I'm kind of concerned about this part. We've got a little hole right there just big enough for a mouse. So I bet that's this. I bet it's gonna be stuffed full of mouse stuff.
Lovely.
The other thing is too, we've got the cap for this tube is coming out of there. And I'd have to desolder it up here to get this completely off. And this is tied into it too. So the best we can really hope for is probably to just lift it off and lay it on its side. That's a 24A. And that's a Cunningham tube, so is that a licensed Cunningham or is that original licensed? Okay, so that might be, I'm trying to think of what that dates it then. It's probably something like, I mean, it's definitely after the, it's definitely 30s at some point, in the 30s. Oh, good Lord. Here it comes. Look over here.
God.
Right here.
Ooh.
See there?
Wow.
What else have they got up in there, I wonder? Maybe the live mouse is still in there. Possibly. There we go. Oh boy. Dog food and bird feed, bird seed. Right on the tuning condensers there. That's not going to cause any tuning issues, is it? Look, that'll be fine. We'll work around that. I'll just put the lid back on. I think it'd be fine. Let's go ahead and start sweeping that out. As much of it as we can get. Get my kitchen broom. You can get in there with that paintbrush. No, that right here first. Yeah, this first. Oh, chipmunks will appreciate all that food. Here, so let your side down. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Good Lord.
Good God. Yeah, I just pulled it off. It was barely even holding on there. Oh, we fired it. It was fine. I love that. It works.
It works. The volume just didn't really change.
Can you imagine? Yeah, it didn't change from 0 to 0. Works fine. Just that the fact that it makes no sound, and all those sparks and smoke. It was the sparks and smoke that made us turn it off. No, vacuum is the next step. Here, see if you can vacuum all that crap out of there. All these the same. Let's see, this, hang on, don't pull anything. All right, 27. I believe these are all 27. Yep.
This one says 24.
Yeah.
But that's the one that you had me put up here,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
put those up in there too, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna take all of these out. Ooh, that one's probably not good. Yeah, that tube's probably not good right there.
Ooh.
That's an 80, but look, see, somebody tried to glue it,
Oh my God.
but it's loose.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good tube. Okay, we've pretty much lost all of our daylight now. We're gonna move this operation inside. We've got a bunch of mouse stuff out of it. Looks like they squirreled away a bunch of dog food and bird seed and all kinds of crap up inside of it. I've got a power cable. The game plan now is just we're gonna take this inside, put the power cable on it, dial it up slowly on the Variac and see if it even comes up at all. See if anything happens. I'm really skeptical of this this number 80 rectifier because it's broken free from the base and probably is not going to work. And they had put some glue on there at one point, and it's just, I think this number 80 is going to need a replacement. I think I have some of these in my tube stash, but we'll have to look around for them. This thing has got some weird features I'll show you in a bit, but we're going to move this inside so we can take a better look. Okay, we got this thing inside now. We got it up on the bench. I got a cable from my cable stash. I'm gonna slap a cord on it, but I wanted to show you this first. It's kind of funky and weird. This switch up here, this is the volume control and the switch. So check this out. This is a switch, like, you know, instead of the normal switches that you see, you'll have a pot like this and then you'll have a switch on the back of the pot, you know, if it's from a certain era. But this is really old school. This is like first of all, this is a giant pot. Get a load of the size of the thing, but there's an actual switch kind of grafted over here on the side of it, and it's got this little wrench-like hook that comes out. See, it looks like a little wrench there that grabs a little piece of metal. And if I were to, it physically switches the thing. You see what I mean? That little piece of metal goes in there, slots in there, and then you could switch it on and off, which I think is just really cool, really ingenious way of doing it. But what's kind of funky even more is that this thing has two on-off switches. Apparently, it's got that one, but it's also got this one on the back. So I don't know if this one was put on later by somebody. It actually says high and low, so this might actually cut the power high and low. I would have to see a schematic to know exactly what this is doing, whether it's cutting the primary or the secondary voltage maybe, or something like that, like it's changing the winding. So that's my guess that that's what's going on right there, but I'm not sure. It does have some wires that seem to, at least, run up from this up into the transformer, so that's probably is something like that, but I'm really just not sure. Without a schematic, I just have no way of knowing. Now, I do have some very old rider manuals that might have this unit in there, but to know which one it's from, it'd be a stab in the dark unless I can find some kind of date code, which I do not see. I do see this transformer over here is a stand core. But again, I don't see a date code on the side I can can actually see. I need a mirror to look on the other side, but you can see these really old school. They're labeled Potter, and I don't know if that's the same Potter that had a manufacturing facility for a long time in my hometown where I grew up, of Marion, Kentucky. There used to be a Potter in Brumfield. I don't know if this is the same Potter. Maybe they merged later on with Brumfield. I don't know the history of that company, but it's just interesting to me that they're labeled Potter. So that might have actually been made possibly in my hometown, which is interesting. And all these are Potter condensers. And like a quarter of a microfarad, and then these are all small condensers right down through there, all those. So very interesting. You know, I mean, looking at this, it would seem like this would not be much of a chore to figure out and get up and going. But the thing is, it's just different than the sort of thing I'm used to working on. And who we got here? We got a visitor. Hang on, Ivy. Who is that person? Is that a Lego person? Who is that? Hey. Oh, it's Batgirl. Hi, Batgirl.
And Jack.
And Jack. Batgirl and Jack. It's you. Hi.
Obviously.
All right, so let's go ahead and get the cord on here, and we'll, like I said, we'll dial it up on the Variac and see what it does. All right. I've got this thing loaded back in the cabinet because it's got the field coil on the speaker, so I can't just hook it up to any old speaker. It has to be hooked up to the field coil speaker. So these two wires are indeed for the field coil, and as I was explaining to Katie earlier, the field coil is a coil that gets electrified by the B+ line, which is the high voltage line inside the radio, and it goes through the coil and electrifies the voice coil so that it can actually move. Early speakers did not have permanent magnets in them like they do now. So, but the thing is, there are probably going to be hundreds of volts if this is like your average field coil line, and they're on these little terminals on the back, and if you short these, it's going to be probably, I would say, some fireworks would be involved. It's a bit of a, you know, not necessarily that safe of a setup. Especially if this back was open like this and you had it pulled out from the wall a little bit. You know, you had little toddlers in the house. You know, they could reach back here and, you know, feeling around. I mean, there's like going to be a few hundred volts right there. Jesus. It really makes you wonder how many little kids must have died just from average household items like this back in the day, you know? I'm trying to think what else I might need. I'm gonna need to hook up an antenna of some kind. I'm not sure what this little jack right here is. I followed the line. It's like a 1/4-inch phone plug, and I followed the line and it goes here. That might be where the amplifier begins. So anyway, so this might be like where you could plug a microphone or something like that in to this. And we might even end up using this as like a place where we can inject a Bluetooth signal or whatever we want to do. But let's go ahead and fire it up on a Variac and just see if we can get the radio part to work. And we also have to keep in mind that all this stuff is open at the moment that doesn't have the cover, so we can't go reaching back here. There's going to be hundreds of volts right here. This would be the B+, but that's kind of convenient actually because we'll be able to measure coming off of that. This has got 3 lines coming to it. I don't know which is going to turn out to be what here, but I'll just go through from the middle one. Just see if that gives us any readings at all. So, okay, I got the on switch on. Right now it's in, is this low or high? Okay, it's in low. And like I said, I think that might cut the power. You're not going to be able to see anything except my rear end right now. Sorry about that. Well, we got voltage coming up. Look there, 9, 10, 11. So somebody's home right there. It's a little less voltage than I would have expected right there, though, if that's the B+. There's 24, 25. So this is the first. Maybe there's 3 different caps in here, and that's what's going on. We've got the first, second, and third large capacitor. That's probably the case. And each one of them is probably 20, even though the tag on there, it says the value, and it has 20 for the value. It probably means that there's 3 different 20s in it. And if I switch this probably will jump. It actually dives. So that's, so it actually cuts it about in half. So we're going from 11 to what, 20, what I say, 25 or whatever?
24,
Yeah.
25, yeah.
So it cuts it less than in half. So actually, let's leave it right there on the high, and we'll dial it up a little more on the variac and see where. I really just kind of want to see this high voltage get up to about 100 volts at least. Yeah, there we go. Now we're talking more like it. All right, we're at 120 DC right there at that first node. We'll check the other nodes here. That one's at 56. And this one is at 107. So this will be node 1, this is node 2, and this one will be node 3. We've got fire on the tubes. See them glowing? Oh, wow. So our rectifier's working. The one that was the tube that we thought was broken probably. It is working even though it's not in great shape. But it's holding steady. But these capacitors in here, they're so old, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they just kind of shorted out. I mean, really it needs to be, that can needs to be restuffed with 3 new capacitors. That would be really the right way to do this, because it's so clean underneath. I would really hate to just cut that out and then put 3 ugly, you know, modern capacitors inside of there without doing it right. It's just not doing the radio justice to, you know, treat it like that. I wouldn't want to be the one to say I did it. So we know we're getting voltage there. I'm curious how much voltage, if any, we're getting here at the, yep, see there's 100 volts right there. The choke is in the same line as those 3 capacitors. We got 50, 55, how can we have 55 on that side? I guess, all right, well we do have voltage on both sides. I mean, there is going to be, that has to be some coil in that speaker, because the voltage drop, look at that. Okay, so on one side of the coil, on one side, before it goes into the speaker, I've got 106 volts before the speaker coil, the field coil. After the field coil, when it comes out of it, on the other side of it, the voltage has dropped plumb in half, down to 55 volts. I mean, that's a huge voltage drop. But see, this 55 volts right here, this is going to be at the same node that this one is at coming out of the field coil. See how that's 55 volts and so is this? We're touching basically the same place. If we were to turn the unit off and then switch to ohms, we would find a dead short between that point and this point. That's the same point in the circuit. Right. And this is the capacitor for that node of the circuit. Okay. So if I were to show you on a schematic how it works, you got the transformer, which transforms the line voltage of 120. It bumps it up to hundreds of volts. And then you have a rectifier, which changes the AC voltage to DC voltage. And that's this thing, this one that was broken, that's hanging on by a thread. So it's doing its job, and I know that because I'm getting DC voltage readings on all these spots.
So it's connecting it.
Correct. And then coming out of this rectifier, you have a node. So you'll have one point in the circuit where you have a capacitor that goes from that point to ground. Then the capacitors are there to smooth the ripple, because the AC coming out of the wall it goes up and down like this, and it's like buzz at 60 hertz. And if you don't smooth out all that hum with using condensers or capacitors, they used to call them condensers, and that's what this thing is. It's got 3 of them in there actually. If you don't smooth out all that ripple, the radio is just going to sound like shit, because you'll be able to hear it, but it'll just be like in the background the whole time. It'll be like it'll sound like that the whole time. But that's what the job of these capacitors. So this thing hasn't legitimately, I don't think, been fired up in quite probably decades, and just to shock it to life is not a good idea. We're just going to dial it up slowly on the And that's just dialing up the voltage. You can see we've got 65 volts coming in right now, instead of the full 120 volts that's out of the wall. So that's what that thing does.
Right.
It just dials it up slowly, so it's not going to shock everything to life that way.
Right.
But again, we got 122 right here, and if I switch this switch, it's going to cut what, about half.
So it's actually...
Or we thought half earlier, but now it actually may cut it down less. It's dropped it. Yeah,
So
it's
we
dropped
were
it
originally expecting it to increase? Because you were saying...
Well, because this one says high, but I think
Right.
I think this may have turned on us over time, or so, like
Right.
it's, you know, somebody might have flopped it or whatever, but or when they wired it from the factory, even they might have wired it backwards,
Right.
which is you see that stuff all the time too. But you can see, you know, what it's doing. It's dropping that voltage, which is gonna basically tame the radio down, so it's not consuming as much. And they might have even done that. You know, for rural people, because if they were running on like a generator or something like that, or like battery power, you know, if they had some kind of battery array that they were using to convert that and then run something like this out in the sticks, you would want the lower power so it didn't drain your batteries and stuff. So
Right. So how does that affect the sound of...
it was just lower the volume and stuff and just make it all quieter. I'm not getting any sound yet, I don't think. I don't see any glow in this tube back here, which is kind of concerning me a little bit. That tube's ice cold. Yeah, that one's warm. Yeah, these tubes over here, they're a bit cold, so I don't know. May dial it up a little bit more here in a second. All right, I'm dialed up to about 90 volts, and I'm at about 740 milliamps. That's nothing excessive. So now we're at 173 volts on this node. Second node is 147. Third node is 80 volts. I don't see anything glowing in these output tubes though.
So what does that indicate?
That I don't know, that they may be dead, or there may be some other problem. They would likely get their voltage from for the plates of these tubes. We be getting their voltage from this point, and there's voltage there. So I don't think voltage is the issue. I think it could be the tubes themselves might be bad. It would be unusual to have two output tubes bad whenever all the other tubes were good, though. I mean, why would those two
Right.
only be bad? Of course, we're still only at 89 volts, so it could just be a matter of dialing it on up, and it might get there. But we're just going to give it a minute. We're taking it real slow because, again, I want to try to reform these capacitors, maybe bring those up slowly and let them reform. All right, so 100 volts now we're dialed up to on the input, and we are at 95 watts of power consumption in 1 amp, which seems, I don't know if that's high or not for something like this, but we've only got 178 volts. I would say we probably have some very, very leaky capacitors over here. I wouldn't be surprised if one or more of these was bleeding off so much voltage that we're just...
So that's detecting it, but it's not necessarily going to the rest of the...
No, there's voltage at the nodes, but not enough. Like this one, I would expect a lot higher voltage. Like if I'm at to 100 volts there, I would expect a lot more than just 176 volts at this first node. And I think the reason why it's not higher is because the capacitor that's in here at that point is probably short, either shorting out or it's just really leaky. So it's bleeding off. It's turning into a resistor rather than being a capacitor, and it's just bleeding off a bunch of voltage to ground to the chassis instead of being a capacitor. A capacitor shouldn't be it shouldn't be a resistance when you measure it from one side to the other of a capacitor. It should be a capacitor, not a resistor. But I think these are turning into they're just so old. They're turning into resistors. So I think we're going to have to take this out and restuff it with some new capacitors. And that could be very messy. and pretty toxic. So I'll let you do that. I'll let you do that. You don't plan on having any kids, do you?
Yeah.
All right, okay, you'll be fine. I'm not getting any fire at all in these output tubes. It's like they're not, I don't know. There we go.
Oh.
Okay, so we had some cruddy. Uh-oh. Okay, hang on. Stand by. So one of the power tubes just came alive. That's the. Hey, I'm gonna kill that though, because only one of the power tubes came alive, and the reason it did is because I was wiggling it in the socket, and the socket was so dirty.
How would you even begin to clean something like that?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Just like this. This is a spray, and we spray it down in the socket, and it's just gonna clean those pins when we stick this back in there. So hopefully they get a connection. We just plug it and unplug it a couple times. Here, I'll let you do this one. There you go. Now take this, and you want to put it in. Notice that two of these are bigger. Those two are bigger, and they will go on this side, on those two.
On the left side?
Yep. Yep. Okay. I'm hoping that those contacts got clean. And if it doesn't clean them, and we don't get any fire in this one, if this one doesn't light up now, we may have to take the chassis back out and clean them from underneath. Okay, we still have no fire on these output tubes. I'm going to try this one first this time. There we go. Something kicked in right there. Now this one's on now. Okay, now it went away. So we've definitely got. See, this one's lighting up and this one isn't lighting up at all. So I don't know if we've got one of these tubes out, or we're gonna have to open it up and see what the deal is. But it's promising. It's telling me a lot of stuff is working, so that's good. So I would call that test overall a success. We know what our potential problem is.
Yeah.
We already suspected we'd have to restuff these caps anyway, so that's got us one step closer to having this thing actually working. So. Welcome to the jungle. Niels. All right, let's test this first tube. The filament is actually lit, as you can see there. Hey, little Jackie man. How's it going, little Jackie man? Oh, shoot. Oh, man, your eyeballs. Look at your cataracts. Look at me, Jackie man. Oh, them are devastating cataracts. All right, little Jackie man, let's read this meter. You ready? 1, 2, 3, boop. This one tests good. All right, let's hope this one comes up. Is it gonna? Got filament? Please have filament. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Got filaments. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, that one didn't move. Well, the filament's firing up, but it's not moving the needle. Whoa. Look at that. It also killed the filament, didn't it? Sure did. When I tried to test it, it killed the filament. Okay, see, now it's coming back. Let's try this again. Yeah. It acts like it's trying to move the needle, but it's just not. And look, the filament died when I wiggled this around. I don't know. I don't think this tube is in good shape. Let's try one more time. Oh, it's starting to test good there, but the thing is, it's just like maybe these pins need just some kind of. Yeah, I think it probably will work, but I'm gonna have to take it out and clean those pins real well, and just to make sure it gets a good connection. Got the output tubes back in. Both of them are glowing. One of them is just glowing a little bit fainter than the other one, but they are both glowing. The problem I'm having now is it seems I've got some kind of little short on this one. See there? I've got a little short on this wire. That seems to be the main problem. but we can pick up stations.
Half and led 41 to 31, and then pretty much steadily increased it throughout and wound up with a 22-point win, 86 to 64. Louisville wound up shooting 61% from the field and limited Prairie View to 39%. The Cards have kept all three of their opponents so far in the 30s.
It's the low power mode
percentage goes. Actually, the 39 by Prairie View today is the best by a Louisville opponent in the 3 games. The Kentucky Office of Highway Safety reminds you to always play it safe behind the wheel.
Never use oil slick out the back of your car. That's your friendly Kentucky Highway
I've got a lot of
Safety
plans
line.
in Phillips Choose Care Source. Care Source has excellent.
Please don't use your ejector seats on the interstate. It just causes problems.
Okay. Please. Yeah, they're not interested in being identified with you and me. Right.
That's right.
You know, so, so just because somebody's Republican doesn't, so this guy Krebs, he's a Republican. What does that mean? You know.
What does that mean anymore? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's actually picking up a lot of stuff, but there's some smaller capacitors in there, like a quarter of a microfarad or a half a microfarad or whatever. They have the right look as they are right now, so they might have to be restuffed with some other capacitors. And I don't know if I have all the values that are in this thing in stock right there, so I'll have to look and see. And we might do that too, but definitely this wire needs to be replaced. Okay, so I did a couple measurements on these capacitors, these smaller ones, and realized that none of these are right. And I knew that anyway. I don't know, it was wishful thinking I was going to be able to get away with it. But we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the things in total. The first one has already been removed, and Katie has it over here. She's already dug it out, actually, and it was a lot easier than we thought it was going to be, wasn't it? So there's the capacitor. And this one was like 1/10 of 1 microfarad, so it was 0.1 microfarads, this one. And it just pop right out of the canister. So hopefully we can just stick a new one in there and roll with this. Okay, so we got all of these capacitors, these smaller capacitors, have all been changed out. They've all been restuffed with brand new capacitors, and all should be just fine. And I'm in the process now of hooking up the Bluetooth. And what I've done is I've added actually a fuse down here for safety on the main line. And I've jumped off the main line and put this little 5-volt power supply in here.
That's a continuous 5-volt power supply for the Bluetooth.
Okay, I just wanted to do a final video on where we ended up on this thing. So I got the Bluetooth installed, everything is synced, but I'm getting some overloaded signal with this, and I'm not sure exactly why. So you can see right now it is synced. The LED is constant on. I tried to add that smoothing capacitor across the DC that was provided actually with the unit, and I went ahead and added that to see if that would smooth things out a little bit. That I thought maybe it was a power issue, but no, it's not. So let me show you what it's doing currently. Sensitive to these sorts of vibrations, so you didn't get this sort of thing with the older turntables, and plus they were made out of a really heavy steel, so it was really harder to move those than it is these modern turntables. But yeah, you know, all things considered, all in all, I think you can see it clipping red there, and if I turn this down, it's like I think it's about as good as it doesn't get very loud without clipping. So I don't got an overloaded signal out of this unit, and I'm not sure why. It's just overloaded. It's too much signal coming out of it. Also, we've got a problem with an intermittent tube. This tube right here sometimes will, I don't know if it's shorting or what the deal is. I think maybe the filament is shorting inside of this one at times, and sometimes if you just kind of slam it down into the socket a bit hard, it will sort of jolt itself loose, and then both of these tubes will light up. Every other tube lights up, but these two do not. But then, like I said, you can jolt that one down, and then those tubes will light up, and then everything comes on. But right now, I do have it wired where you can just bypass simply by plugging this in. So when you unplug this, it goes to radio, and the radio does work. Okay, so we are getting some reception. It's kind of hard to tune this without the knob. It's just too hard to tune. We are getting some reception on some stations. It's kind of intermittent, but we are getting reception on the stronger channels. It's not perfect though. It does work, but I think unless we replace that tube right there, we're probably not going to get a good idea of, you know, how good the reception can be without replacing that one, and then of course the output tubes. So that's where we are on this thing right now. Unfortunately, it's about as far as I can get without ordering parts or going further. So that's it. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe, and we'll see y'all later.